Hello and welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I am your host, Tom, and on this most sorrowful of days where Grey Knight rules have been cast asunder one way and the other, I am joined at least by my two brilliant co-hosts tonight. Firstly, we have Nikos. How are you doing, Nikos?
Hello, I'm Nikos. I like to party.
He
I'm
does
all
like to
right.
party. He does like to party. He's bringing the energy. He's bringing the energy. I don't know why I am as well, to be honest. This is not me, and I'm not entirely sure I like it, so I'm probably going to settle down. That's all right. And also, replacing our missing Orc player today, we have had to replace him with another Orc player because we only have Orc players on this podcast. We are the Orc podcast, apparently. We're joined by Scrivo. How are you doing,
Yeah,
Scrivo?
I'm not too bad. I'm just here with my mech workshop because I'm that much of an orc player. I have one,
Mate,
and it's got paint on
I
it.
mean, we all have mech workshops now. Ever since that FAQ from last year, where they said, "Hey, mech workshops work with Stompers," so we all went out, apart from Nikos because he doesn't buy models from Games
Fucking
Workshop,
hate train.
and bought and bought Mech Boy workshops, and then they re-FAQ them again
Yeah.
and ruined all of our days. So,
Well, I would say, John, that you're not a real orc mech because a real orc mech would make their own mech workshop.
Yeah,
That's so mechy.
yeah. That's the thing. I'm one of these weirdos that actually quite likes buying the kit as well. I prefer buying the
yeah.
actual model at times. Although all my orc trucks are now Goliath trucks because I was just like, I want pretty looking trucks. So
Although
Oh,
to be
right.
fair, it is one of those where it's not really a kit because it's one of those kits where it's got like how when you have a sprue
yeah,
and you have bits that like pop into the bottom. This has got one like every quarter of an inch, and it's always really thick. It's one of those like Chinese models, right?
I don't think it is, but it
I don't
Yeah.
know
feels
where
like
they
it
print
should
these.
be. It's an awful
Mm.
kit as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
a
it's
nice
it's
nice
not great.
break.
So today we're going to be talking about the news. Unfortunately, because I have some very sad news. Based upon my poor beloved Grey Knight Codex. We're also going to be talking about Thousand Suns, but nobody cares. And we're going to be doing a Build a Boss workshop based around what you did a few years ago, Nick, with the Build a Bear Demon Prince. And we're going to be doing that with Orc war bosses. Before we get into that, I want to see how you're all doing. So, chat, great to see you. How are you all doing? Let me know how you're doing in chat. Nikos, how are you doing this week? What have you been up to, dude?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Me and Scrivo are preparing for the Hellstorm event that we're both going to this
Very
weekend
good.
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
Mansfield.
Hmm.
The first round draw's gone up, which is pretty exciting. I know I'm
Mm.
playing Tau, so I
Oh,
have been
lovely.
So I have been scheming meticulously behind the scenes, doing as much reconnaissance and information gathering on my opponent's army as possible, and also
Yes.
doing background checks on the player to try and find any sort of information that I might be able to blackmail him with at the table.
Did you
Uh,
come to the conclusion, Nikos, after all your research, that he was going to try and shoot you?
I did uncover
Plot
that he
twist.
might be attempting a hit, which I was
Oh,
able to
okay.
foil, but I
Mm.
did get my hands on his tax returns, so I'm going
Oh
to
my
reach them
word.
and see what they have to say.
Not again.
That's my
Okay.
plan to win,
Mm.
basically. Other than that, I might just try and use my obsec on the objectives.
That's good. That's
Versus,
good. What are you taking to Hellstorm, mate?
Necrons. So
The Necrons themselves.
I have initiated Necron protocols for this
You're
event.
actually using those? My word.
I am. Well, no, I ironically I'm not. I have mixed detachments in my list. So I don't get the protocols because they're such a tiny little buff that very rarely are relevant. What's the
Hmm.
point in building to get them when I can build a better list by mixing detachments and not having them? So the benefit of that is better than the protocols.
Hmm.
So I've got a very small detachment of 3 heavy destroyers that are in single units, and then a destroyer lord who's pretty shooty. So that's my like dedicated anti-tank, and the
Hmm.
destroyer lord's pretty tasty, I
Nice.
think, as well.
Yeah.
And then the rest is like 220s of warriors with Cartoon Command Barge, 2 Chronomancers to give them a 5+ invuln,
And reroll charges as well.
and reward charges, which could
Really
be
good.
really useful on grabbing objectives late game or mid game or whatever. Then I have a Reanimator backed up
Mhm.
on the pointing at one of the Necron bricks.
Nice.
Then I've got a Ghost Arc, and then 2 Doomsday Arcs, and then
Very
3
good.
Wraiths.
It's a lot
So
of units. I like it.
yeah, so it's mainly focused on, so there's one blob of the list, which is two blobs of Necrons with some support. Catkin Command Bars, they kind of hold a home objective and then push towards the middle, and the other stuff kind of flies around, holding space or holding objectives. Because everything's obsec apart from the destroyers, like that's probably the only reason Necron are doing okay, I think.
Okay.
With the all obsec thing, because every list has it.
Yeah.
Like
That's fair.
I've mixed mine slightly, but pretty much everyone has it. So it's
So-
mainly focused on the obsec part. I've not got loads of Well, I don't know. I've not played the list at all yet. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I think it's a good list. I'm going to see.
You're good with Necrons, mate. You're good with Necrons. So going into the end, have you got like a goal, an aim you want to go for? You're trying to go 3-2, 4-1, 2-1-2.
I would. Obviously, my aim is to win the event, but realistically, I would like to go 4-2.
It's 6 games.
It's a 6 gamer.
Yeah, 6 games.
Oh, you sweaty boys!
It's gonna hurt.
So I would like to win more than I lose. That's probably my personal aim.
Good luck with that, man. And have you played any other tabletop war games this week at all? Done any painting, any of that?
Because we have, because there's an event this weekend, 40k. I've played Mordheim in preparation.
Very good. Very good.
To really hone my narrative skills.
Yep.
Ahead of the competitive 40k event. So I took my Chaos Dwarves last night to a multiplayer game, and they were rubbish. And one of my guys tried to jump off a building because he realised my pistol's not going to do much in this game. I'll try and jump down and shoot him up close, and he jumped off and died.
Well, did you have a good time though? That sounds like there are a few stories in there that you can retell, and that's always a thing, mate. You never tell the stories of how you won a game. You tell the stories of the goofy shit that happened, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's perfect.
That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, Scrivo, I heard you're going to Hellstorm as well. What are you taking, mate? And what's your first round matchup look like?
I'm taking Dark Angels. I took them a couple of weeks ago. Misplayed a couple of rules at another event, but we won't talk about that. It's quite a nice little.
You cheated.
Unintentionally. That's the thing. I put my hands up and I was like, looking back at the games, it wouldn't have made.
I forgot. We don't normally have cheaters on this program, but we'll make an exception for you because you've got all the.
I didn't cheat that well because I didn't even win. I only got 3rd. So
you got to the top table. Oh,
yeah.
right. You're on the podium. Okay, dude.
So,
okay.
But yeah, it was alright. But basically, my list's kind of a threat overload list. I think is the way I kind of try to attribute it. So I've got a blob of 3 attack bikes. I've got 3 land speeder tornadoes, which allows they've got multi-melters and assault cannons. Then I've got 2 bricks of Blade Guard veterans. I've got 5 obsec bikes, so I've got a separate detachment for that, so they can just go up and do stuff. A Talon Master to do that horrible going and just murdering things, and then
very good.
3 units of intercessors.
That is horrible.
With Azrael sat with them and Ezekiel. So I've got Ezekiel for the whole, lots of really nice tricksy powers. Like he's got one where he can cause them to fight last, one that removes obsec, and if they're doing an action, removes that if I beat their leadership. So I've got some cool things to kind of counterplay if someone sat on an objective and just go, nope, you're not putting a banner on that, you stupid idiot. And it should be quite fun.
Fair play.
I've done all right with it in sort of test games. Like I played against my local mate that has Drakari, and I lost by 8 points. So I feel against Drakari, if I can kind of have that sort of response to it, I think I'm doing all right. So people say I'm a bit quiet. I better turn myself up.
But before we go into the next section, Scriv, I want to ask you about how you want to do and what your first matchup looks like. I'll just talk to chat for a second while you sort out your audio because apparently it's pretty quiet. Rob is not here tonight. He was going to be doing one of the other bosses, but unfortunately the boss was one of the Mork bosses and very sneaky and didn't want him giving away all of the secrets to why this boss is the best boss.
Yeah.
So that gives us all a chance to show our bosses off on camera and demonstrate why our bosses are the best. Scrivo, do you want to give that a try? What are you playing round 1, mate?
So for round 1, I'm actually playing something I've never faced in 9th edition or even 8th edition. I'm playing against White Scars. So it's 2 big blobs of Vanguard veterans with VGVs. 1 fist, 1 lightning claw and a shield, and then 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. And then 2, something I've seen, I think mine's the only Space Marine list at the event that doesn't have 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts with 2 Volkite Culverins. And I looked at it and went,
they're fucking everywhere, aren't they?
I've got a Volkite arm for mine, because when I bought mine, I bought one of each gun, and I was just like, cool. And at that point, there wasn't even rules for it, and I was like, cool, this is all right. It's a bit swingy. And now people are doing it. I'm just like, it's just fishing for 6s. It's really boring. So, but he's got those. It's like...
I think for the points they are ridiculous because I've played against them once and I can see why. So basically, whether it does rely on you actually rolling hot and fishing for 6s, but in my game, like every turn, 1 dreadnought did 5 or 6 mortal wounds to me.
That's lucky. I tend to whiff on it.
But there's also the threat of it, right?
Yeah.
Because it can swing up and do a lot of damage to a well-armored unit, right? You can stick a unit of paladins or custodes out there, and you might just get rolled. One of the things that is worth mentioning is because this event is using a unique terrain setup, isn't it?
Yes.
In that you have multiple different setups across the event. You've got some LGT style boards, some WTC style boards, some Games Workshop open style boards, and we're all kind of
very open boards
mixed around and like playing on a WTC style board is very, very different to playing on an LGT style one. So are you guys kind of prepared for all of the different terrain setups? Nikos, I'll come to you first, or is there like one you'd like to avoid with your list?
I think the one I'd like to avoid most, I think, is the Games Workshop one, because I think the others are more designed for the UK competitive scenes, whereas the Games Workshop one is kind of designed with a competitive scene in mind, but it's also, I feel like they're kind of designing it for the terrain that they sell as well.
Okay.
I think that's slightly more sparse, slightly than the other ones. And I think my list is probably tailored more towards thinking about the other two as well, the LGT one and the other one is I don't know if it's the WTC one. Those two, where it's like you kind of know when you design your list how the terrain's going to be, so I can deploy a couple of things hidden there, a couple of small units hidden there. So I want to avoid the Games Workshop, I think.
That's fair. Scrivo, are you kind of similar? Or
it's similar.
To avoid, like the heavy WTCs.
And I think I'd want to avoid the LGT ones as well. If I was being able to pick and choose, it'd be the other two, because I find I've practiced a lot using Game Mat EU, old kind of ITC style stuff, and then I've been practicing obviously for going to the TSN Arena and playing on quite dense boards. And so now going kind of to the opposite on a board where you can literally just shoot at anything near enough you wanted to sounds kind of a shit experience if I'm going second. And I like the idea that if I'm going second, I can weather the storm and then counterattack. And I don't think I'll get that with those two styles of boards.
Fair enough. We'll see. We'll have to check back in next week and see how you guys both did and how you feel about the boards and what have you. Scrivo, I don't know if you'll be here, but we'll talk to you anyway. We'll feedback. Yeah. We might have a guest next week as well that we have a special topic for. So that could be a lot of fun.
Okay.
I haven't played any 40k, I don't think. I've painted some Grey Knights. That's about it. I've been working my way through. I've been painting bodies. So that way, when I know what's good, I can glue the arms to the bodies.
Very smart.
We'll be all right. Yeah, I'm not quite smart enough to magnetize, mainly because I'm a little bit clumsy to magnetize my models. But we're working on that now, and we're working our way through it. Speaking of Grey Knights, we can move on to the news. We've had 2 books go down for pre-order since we last spoke. And that's weird because I think we were here last week. In fact, we were here 6 days ago. So it's been quite a busy 6 days. We've had, of course, Grey Knights. They've been dropping with their pre-order coming up this Saturday. And we've also had Thousand Suns coming up. So if we go and have a look at the Thousand Suns first, because I feel like they are the most... In fact, no, we'll start with the box set that you can get, shall we?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've talked about Hexfire yet, have we? So if we look at Hexfire, it's a box set for Thousand Suns and Grey Knights. And Scrivo, can you remind me of how much this cost?
£105 retail for the UK.
Okay, so what you're getting in this is for Grey Knights, you're getting Castle and Crow, the new model that we saw a couple of weeks ago. You're getting 10 Strike Marines. Now, Strike Marines come in box of 10 anyway, but you can build them to be Interceptors, Purgation Squads, Purifiers, Strike Marines, whatever you want. It's just a generic Grey Knight box. And then you get a Nemesis Dread Knight. And then on the Thousand Suns section, you get what's this character called for the Thousand Suns Scrivo? Do you know?
Oh, very good
the
question.
Infernal Boss.
Yes, Infernal
Boss.
Sorcerer or something, wasn't it? Oh God.
The Infernal Master.
Master, that was the one.
There we go. We found it. The Infernal Master. And then it looks like you get a second character who's floating around on a disc. You get 5 Scarab Cult Terminators and 10 Zangor. Overall, this looks like a pretty good and well-priced box. What do you guys think? Scrivo, are you going to be getting one of these?
I am, because for my birthday I got bought a Dread Knight in preparation that I'd eventually do them as a thing.
Bandwagon in this.
I know, right?
Disgusting.
But to me, it was like it's a fun one to do. I bought some great. I think it was a Strike Squad back for Kill Team in 8th edition, and really enjoyed playing them because it was just something very different to what I normally play. And so I'm curious about it. I don't have any understanding of how they work mechanically at the moment, and that's probably a blessing, right?
It's okay.
Are you
Nobody
going to
does
paint them
because
silver?
they've removed it.
So my kind of plan was I wait for the book for them and then start looking at the rules. So.
How are you painting them, Scrivo? Are you going to go with silver?
I think so. It'll be an excuse for me to try doing different silver, like a different style of silver, I think. So normally I just brush on lead belcher and I'm just done. So I might experiment with airbrushing it on, because now I'm an airbrush guy. I can kind of I can do the fancy stuff, right? And
have you heard about streaking grime, Scrivo?
I think this would be the one time I don't. I'm basically 1 foot in the door on streaking grime now. I've been.
Let me tell you, if your wellness levels aren't 100%, then you need some streaking grime, because they will make your painting excellent and grim dark, perfect for 40k. The affordable price of $5.99, available on Amazon.
And you get really lightheaded when you're stripping it off, right? I helped strip some of the terrain of it, cleaning it up, and I was just like, "Oh, this alcohol, it's really good."
That's just the
side effect, right?
The passive bonus of doing it.
Yeah.
But I honestly think metals look fantastic with streaking grime, and it's dead simple. So you could do. Although I think if you do more to the model before you put streaking grime on, you benefit. So you could like spray seal or whatever. Yeah. Then you could do some bit of weathering or dry brushing, and then streaking grime it, and then you could do additional stuff on top of that.
Yeah.
Depending on what you take off from the streaking grime.
I could even approach it in the way that I've done a lot of my 40k Orks and fancy Orks, where I've been putting texture paint on the metal panels. So depending on how much weathering I want to do, I could kind of really grime them up, I suppose.
Yeah. Nikos, before I get to you, I just want to get to the chat very quickly. Valerie, the price of a box is going to be £105. I don't know how much it is in like euros or dollars or what have you.
Just double it.
And also, Logan isn't here today because he is still out in Poland, I believe, doing stuff with ESL for Street Fighter 5. So I don't know when he'll be back. He should be back quite soon. I do also want to get something, because Valerie's reminded me of something as well. Last week, I made a joke about how everyone's a cheater. And I included some names who are definitely not cheaters as part of the joke. And I just want to clarify that no one that I mentioned is a cheater, because I promised I would. Okay. Even Scrivo. Even though there's plenty of evidence for Scrivo, there is not a cheater.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Multiple instances. No. At least 2 games of Scrivo cheating.
Yeah. It was more ignorance. In my defence, it was
King Callaghan. That's 140 euros apparently in the European Union is what I've been told. Yeah, sounds about like similar to what we're used to from the precedent, right? Yeah. And chat, what do you think of this box? Do you think it's a good value, or are you going to be skipping over it? Nikos, what's your thoughts on it?
I actually think it's probably decent value, because it looks like it's basically the new combat patrol boxes that they're doing.
Yeah,
it's basically 2 of those stuck together in like a themed release. So if you're halving that, that's cheaper than the what are they called again? I just
Combat Patrol.
The Combat Patrol boxes. It's a discounted Combat Patrol box if you and mate both want to start an army, or you've got existing armies. But I'm not. But I'm not. I don't know how you. I like the Grey Knight models. I think those ranges, even though the Marines are quite old school, and the Nemesis Dread Knight, I don't like the baby carrier. I prefer the ones where people have turned them into like more of a dreadnought. I prefer that. But I do like the Grey Knight models on the whole. But the Tzeentch ones, I'm not a fan of the Tzeentch models particularly. I don't know how you guys feel about them.
So for me on this, I'm looking at the value of it, and I'm looking at the Grey Knight box. I think they're like £35 for the 10 normally. Yeah. Then you look at the Nemesis Dread Knight. I think that's like £35 for that as well. And when you look at Crow, that's probably about 20 quid, because I just bought Ragnar Blackmane actually, and he's about the same price as that. So if I'm looking at that, I'm probably spending £90. If you then include like buying it from like my normal sources in Element Games, it's about 75 quid, right? So I'd effectively be spending about 30 quid for the Tzeentch stuff. And for me, that's probably worthwhile, just because what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint them up and I'm going to put them on my cabinet shelf with Magnus, just to look nice.
Yeah.
Because I am, as we all know, a hobbyist extraordinaire, and I love things looking pretty. So I am going to be buying this box set and then using those on my shelf. And also, it never hurts to have like a little patrol that maybe you can stick in there. It's kind of cool. So I'm probably going to be going for that one. Chat, it seems, well, not really too much strong opinions on it. We've had meh as mandate so far. Everyone's more focused on the cheating stuff. But if those are
everyone loves the spice. I almost cheated ahead of this weekend
Oh,
So,
did you?
Yeah.
So my CP count was incorrect by
Oh,
one.
no.
Yeah. Were you giving yourself too many or taking too many away?
I was given too many. I was giving myself too many.
Ooh.
So I would have gone into the event.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
extra CP.
okay.
So had it not been spotted by the TO, or whoever let him know,
Yeah.
I would have
Oh.
had to.
Mhm.
I know
after
who
the
your
event,
opponent is now,
out
actually.
to disqualify myself in public.
Is it Sean?
No, it's Tez.
Oh, you're playing Tez. Tez hates playing me. It's
Yeah.
great.
I lost to him by
He
1
really
point
hates
with
it.
Orks. It was dreadful. Dreadful.
You'll be fine because I'll talk you through it. It's fine. I've been completely thrown now.
Sorry.
I forgot what I was
So
going to say.
the box itself as well, I think it worked out.
box,
If you
great, yeah.
if you break it all down into those kits, it's actually about half price from the retail. So
Maybe.
if you're wanting enough of it, it is pretty solid. But what's your thoughts on like the Thousand Suns? I looked at that and went, if you've already got the army, is that something you're really going to want more of?
Maybe what me Infernal Master, but I was watching Jim stream and he was just converting one, and it's just like,
Yeah.
not really, to be honest. They're not too hard to convert. That does mean we're getting the codices and this box set dropping on pre-order this weekend, which means we may get some spicy drops from people who get books early, telling us what other things do, and I can start gluing arms to my models. That should be really, really good. While we're on the subject of people who've got their lists wrong, we also have an event at the T Sports Arena this weekend, don't we? I think that's sold out as well. I won't be at that one, but the only reason I know is because a certain cheater. I won't spill his name, so I'll give a fake name.
We call him as a code name. What?
Quark
Mildman.
Quark, yes.
Yeah.
Quark Mildman.
Just to not name names.
Was
That's a
messaging
code
me.
name for him.
Apparently his list was illegal, so that's the count two. Strike two for the anonymous individual who will go named as Quark Mildman.
Stick to Age of Signal.
It's a very simple game. I left it 6 games. It's fine. All right. Let's start with the Thousand Suns then, because I think this is the shorter section, because they actually have fewer articles, which works quite well.
That's because Games Workshop hate chaos.
But they do hate chaos. They give them fewer of everything, including wounds, apparently. That's the thing they give them fewer of. So they're giving them some more thematic and narratively satisfying powers, apparently. And one of these things is that you generate a pool of Cabal points, depending upon the number and type of Psychers in your army. So if you have Magnus, you get 4 points. Araman, you get 3 points, Sorcerers 2, and shitty Terminators 1. And then you can use these Cabal points over the course of the game, kind of like you would with CP, but to do certain things. So they've given a couple of examples here. How do you guys feel about like a secondary currency, 4,000 Suns, being added as well as all the other stuff? Do you think it's too much bookkeeping at this point, or do you think it's inevitable with Psychic armies? What do you think, Nick?
I actually quite like it, and I don't think because I think AdMech had a lot of rules and a lot of stuff to do, whereas I don't mind this because it's like I think you lose it at the end of the phase, so it's only relevant in the Psychic phase, which you'd think that Grey Knights and Sat Thousands should specialize in. So it's a nice narratively themed rule in the Psychic phase that's kind of bringing that army's fluff and narrative to life, and it's nice and clean because you just collect them at the start of the phase and lose them at the end, and they just use those points in that phase to make your Psychic better. So I like it. I don't think it's too overcomplicated.
Yeah, and I guess with Magic kind of demonstrated in this way in Age of Sigmar, right? You have secondary pools of stuff like summoning points or depravity points or whatever points in there. Scrivo, how do you feel about this?
I think it's a nice way of adding an extra layer to an army. Like someone like these guys or Tau are quite often quite one note in as much as that they are really good in one phase, but it's just do the thing and then let's move on. So having something that adds kind of something for you to do, it probably makes that player feel like they've actually got some actual things to do in their actual phases rather than just like, cool, I've done Smite, I'm now going to do another spell, I'm going to do another spell. It's a bit one note, isn't it? It's just like...
Yeah.
So, that's fair.
And it seems to work quite well in things like Sigmar, like having not just the magic-based things, but like the ether gold and all that sort of stuff. The weird little mini currencies give a little bit of flavour to the factions. It could get a bit much, I suppose.
Maybe. And they have given a couple of examples here of the things that they can do. The first one is Kabbalistic Focus, which is you use this after a Psychic test has been made for a unit from your army has passed, and that Psychic power cannot be denied. Oh, I think that's really nice.
Yeah, that's pretty strong, isn't it?
Mm.
8
Big
points.
fans.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah, 8 Cabal points. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
True,
gonna need...
but if you really need that power off, it's similar to one of the Grey Knight ones we'll
Yeah.
talk about later. But if you really need that power off, there you go. Just block it, bang, straight away.
Is it? Do you guys feel that this is incentivizing MSU, isn't it?
That's a lot of sorcerers,
Maybe.
right?
I think MSU style sorcery, you're going to get a lot more sorcery points, Cabal points,
Yeah.
whatever. One thing I like about this is that if you are a narrative and theatrical player, or even if you're a hyper competitive player, you can use this rule to maybe bamboozle and put your opponent off. You could have a small pot of magic dust.
Yeah.
You could in the phase when you cast a spell, you can be like, I'm using my Cabal points. Yeah. Do some maybe you have those magician exploding things that come out of your wrist. Pow! You can bring that into your psychic phase when you're using these points, and it might throw off your opponent. The rest of their game. So,
sometimes even just knowing that your opponent has this means that you don't put your psyker in harm's way in the first place to try and deny it, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is sapping Cabal points, and maybe that's not that worthwhile, depending upon what it looks like.
Speaking of, you have it because you have magic dust.
You do have magic dust, there you go.
in your space.
That sounds like a great tournament experience. Yeah, straight, mate. Trials of Drago is later. Come on, we'll sort that out. The second one that I'm going to talk about is Kindred Sorcerers, and it's another one of these kind of on the row of making your psychic phase more consistent, which I feel like is in theme with Thousand Suns, really, isn't it? Which is where we're going to be going with these. So you use it again after taking a psychic test, and you add +1 to it. So it's kind of similar to Seer Council in that Seer Council was badly worded, but this is clearly intended. But again, it's just making your psychic phase more consistent. I don't know how I feel about the MSU point. It's a good point, Nikos, but if it depends on what the psychic powers are. For example, if you need to get a certain buff off, like for example, we saw with AdMech, if you give a buff to a big unit, it's going to have more impact than a small one, right? So it could depend upon what kind of psychic powers we see. What do you think? What with these?
Yeah, so maybe if you have, I don't know if you can have, let's say a big unit 20 Terminators. Let's assume that's going to be good. If your armies build around putting a psychic power buff on that unit every turn, then maybe you don't have to go MSU. You just build around getting enough points to do that thing on the Terminator brick every turn, and you can do that reliably. Or you can guarantee that with the 8 Cabal points. Yeah,
100%. I'm a big fan of this. Really, I think this is good. I mean, it might mean you need to take Oh, okay. Oh, hey, Chris. Nice to see you, man. So Chris Rose has just raided us with a page with 39. Really good to see you, buddy. Thank you very much for the host, man. I really do appreciate it. Chat, can you let us know what Chris has been working on today, or has it just been more Necrons? But yeah, good to see you, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So we've just been going through the Cabal points for Thousand Suns and what we think. We think I think universally. Scrivo, what did you think? Did you think this Cabal point system was good?
And the way that it's got things like the +1 to cast, to me that looks like you could then have it where if you're engineering your list to do specific psychic abilities and stuff, there might be traits and relics that will go hand in hand with this as well. So they might even have one that gives you extra Cabal points, I imagine. It feels like the sort of thing they do, right? And it's kind of
100%.
And looking at the amount of points on them, like that one, the second one's only 5 to do. It feels like that they are quite expensive to do. So it's not like cool, you get to do all these cool things. It feels like they're reining it in so that you get to have some nice buffs, but not just let's throw the table and break it instantly type of situations.
Yeah, and if it was one of those things where you generate it across the game, it could incentivize you attacking those psychers early on as well, couldn't it? Really, which could be good, and also further incentivize you to protect them.
Because the pool's generated based on who's on the list or who's on the table.
Good question.
In your army
at the start of the game. Yeah.
It says who's in your army.
You generate. So at the start of your psychic phase, you generate a bunch of command points. Not command points, Cabal points. That's going to throw so many people, isn't it? Let's be honest.
So depending on how that's actually worded, whether it's alive or was in the list, to me it feels like it would be who's alive, because they've had similar mechanics like the OBR, so the Bone Reapers in Age of Sigmar, they've got their own sub-currency thing, and it's based on what you've got on the table and you roll. So to me that feels like they're going to have something.
I feel like the only people who are going to argue that it's not alive are people who use Space Marine stratagems with Grey Knights because they're adept to Astartes. So we'll leave that one well alone. So good. We'll move quickly on to the 9 great cults because we don't have the much time.
Say thank you to Nurgle Matthew.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Sorry, I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh.
Donated some gifts
Thanks for the catch there, Nikos.
Oh gosh.
That was really kind of you, mate.
Joe Gallagher. I don't know how to say that.
Amphitera, Loki, Andy01, and Rafe UK. Thank you very much again, Nurgle Matthew. That's really kind of you, buddy. We do really appreciate the support that you give us. We'll move on to the cults then. They talk a little bit about the generic cults. They don't talk too much in detail about what you actually get. They just give you kind of like a bit of spiel about what they're about. The only example otherwse,
bit of AI written bullshit.
Yeah, it's like the instant response you get when you try and
yeah. But when you're messaging Eon about a problem with your gas or something like that, or like your phone.
Exactly.
This is the kind of stuff.
The little AI paperclip that pipes up, right?
Yeah.
The only other example we have is the Cult of Magic Warlord trait, which is whenever you try to smite or catch a caster, Witchfire Psychic Power, which I assume. So Witchfire used to be like the keyword for a psychic shooting attack.
Yeah.
I think it might now be a tree rather than an actual subcategory of psychic powers. So I'd assume
I think all the psychic powers, they have like malediction, something.
And it's in there. Because the Orc ones
have
it.
There's three types. There's 3 types of psychic power now. So it's a keyword within the psychic powers,
and it is a lot of the shooty. I think it is the shooty ones.
Yeah, they're all the damage, mortal wound ones.
Yeah, so that's it's just a reroll, isn't it? It's not massively exciting. There's a couple of extra upgrades you can give to your psychers as well from Legion Command. So, for example, you can make an Exalted Sorcerer manifest an additional power for 25 points. I think that's probably a bit expensive, but we'll have to see the tree. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, it's like anything. Without the full context, I always find it really tough to get excited because normally it's not one thing in isolation. It's that combined with a trait, a subfaction, and then what units you're using. I find makes the whole picture exciting to me.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And then the Nikos, do you have any thoughts on that one, or it depends on what the powers they get are?
Giving one of your sorcerers ballistic skill 2.
And attacks 5.
I mean, I guess it depends. I guess it depends. Maybe if there's like a really good pistol that you can give to a sorcerer,
I feel like
it'd be worth it.
Or a big
with that
stabby
second
thing.
one, if you can turn a sorcerer into a beat stick, you might want to go for it. But otherwise, I think that's a little bit optimistic, don't you?
Are they wanting us to have like slam sorcerers on discs or something? Like people going and just throwing them at people and just murdering stuff? Like fights first, boom.
Can we call them frisbee captains?
Yeah.
We could call them frisbee captains.
They're not boomerangs because they won't come back.
No.
Now, there are a couple of extra cult powers that we can see for Thousand Suns in the next article over, which is called Psychic Slugfest. Grey Knights and Thousand Suns throw down with new powers. If you guys want to follow along at home. The first one they show is the Cult of Time Psychic Power, which is a Warp Charge 6. You select 1 infantry unit within 6 inches of the Psyker, and you can return 1 destroyed model from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining. That's not too bad, to be honest, depending upon how you're building. What do you guys think? Scrivo, what are your thoughts on that one?
So a high value unit, so something like a Terminator, that's getting you 3 wounds, right? Because infantry, it's basically, I imagine, would Zangor not get the right keyword for that? So it'd be down to,
correct.
It'd be your Terminators or your what are they called? Normal Terminators.
I think Zangors might get that, but
yeah.
I think you're right. I think Terminators is going to be the most valuable.
Because you get your value out of it, right? You want as many wounds as you can.
Yeah.
Nikos, what's your thoughts on that one? Pretty much the same?
Yeah, buy Terminators. Games Workshop are pushing Terminators hard this edition.
Yeah.
This is clearly, not clearly, obviously you can use it on other units, but it's definitely optimal on Terminators.
Yeah, and it's one of those units they put in the Hexfire box as well. Exactly, so get your stonk value out of that box.
Do you get Sorcerer units in Thousand Suns, don't you?
Yes, every unit.
So if you're really requiring back Psychers to have as much of your Cabal points, bringing back them that way as well, that's if they're each worth a point, there's that value as well, I suppose.
Fair play. So if we move on to the next one, this is the Cult of Knowledge psychic power now, and it's called Etheric Trespass. And that's also got a warp charge value of 6, but it's got a range of 24 inches and selects an enemy unit. And until the start of the next psychic phase, each time an attack is made against that unit by a model in a friendly Cult of Knowledge unit, you reroll a wound roll of 1. This scares me. And the reason why it scares me is because I am very afraid of what they're going to do to Doom. When that Codex drops.
Oh no, they're going to take it away from us.
They're going to take it away and make it reroll 1s to wound. Please don't do that. Nikos, what do you think, mate?
Well, I definitely think they're going to do that then. Yeah, that's basically going to happen now. They're showing their hand.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. It's fine. It's fine. But what do you think? Good power? I mean, I guess, again, it depends upon the context.
And I guess I think maybe if you're going for lots of bolters, like Terminator unit, 10 Terminators get 40 bolter shots. 10, I don't know what they're called. What are they called? The Thousand Sun Marine
Rubric
unit.
Marines. I blanked
There
as
you
well.
go.
It'd gone. I was like,
10
Sandy
Rubric
boys.
Marines.
Yeah.
We're going to call them Rubik's Marines now. I think that's better.
Rubik's cubes. Yeah.
Rubik's
Yeah.
Marines. Maybe 10 of those with like 20 shots or whatever. And because obviously Thousand Suns, it's kind of plugging that hole that Marines have. They've got the lieutenant for this all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas Thousand Suns don't have lieutenants. So this is just a way of shoehorning reroll 1s into the army. Yeah, I think
fair enough.
If you get 10, it seems like 10 Terminators is going to be good.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. Untested methods in the chat. You says you can get around 13 Cabal points into your list for around 1160 points. So if you're looking at a 2K army, that's like 15 or 16. That's a lot of points.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what the rest of the Cabal points are and Cabal point uses are for the Thousand Suns. But again, we'll have to see about that one. Cadrid wants to know if Zangors are any good. We don't know yet, Cadrid, but nothing that we've seen right now would specifically synergize well with Zangors, I don't think. You guys disagree with that at all?
The reroll is units, so potentially they could be there, but even then, unless you're maybe double melee weapons, you're not really going to be shooting lots with them, I imagine. And like Skyfires and stuff aren't exactly exciting in 40k as they stand, so...
Unless they've given them a buff.
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah.
It's always the context, right?
So the last one we'll do before we then move on to the proper spice and the proper salt is going to be the Cult of Manipulation Psychic Power, which is Attempted Possession. It's only a cast of 5 and casts within 18 inches, and to do 1 mortal wound, and until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a psychic test is taken for that unit, subtract 2 from the psychic test. I think this is pants, specifically because of the 18-inch range and the fact you really want to cast it on enemy psyker. They have to goon it a little bit hard for you to get in range of that, unless you've still got what's the name of the deep strike thing that you had for Thousand Suns? Chat will probably correct me on this one.
But some sort of eye.
Yeah. I know everyone knows what I mean. Where you pick a unit and a character up and you teleport it across the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
The Veil of Thousand Suns.
The Veil of Thousand Suns, exactly. The Helm of the Third Eye. There you go. Was that? Okay, I don't think it's that, but you know what I mean. Anyway, Nikos, do you think this is pants, or do you think there's some more use for it than I do?
It's not amazing, but maybe it's just one of those psychic powers you could include in your list if you're like, well, I'm just going to try and spam as many mortal wound damage powers as possible. This is another smite for 5.
And it's
1 mortal wound for 5.
It's a low charge value as well, which is they're all quite low at that point as well. They're more likely in a straight roll to be successful, right? At the moment, all of those.
Yeah. And as McLeod and Viking have corrected me in the chat, it's the Dark Matter Crystal. That's the one. It's the deep strike. Yeah. All right. Shall we do it?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go for it. So, before we get into the Grey Knights, I want to get you guys' perspective on Grey Knights. Nikos, have you ever played with Grey Knights, played against Grey Knights? What's your kind of experience with them?
I have played against my buddy Paul with his Grey Knights. And I played them initially when they had the new Psychic Awakening stuff, and they could do like range 24, 2 mortal wound smites, loads, and that was pretty horrific to play against. But I think when 9th edition sort of came around, when everyone else had kind of tooled up to be 2 wound Marines, they're Yeah, just give them a few armor. Just give the normal dudes a few armor saves to make, and enough of them fail, and they're quite high cost for what they actually give you on the tabletop. Obviously, the big paladin brick, very good. You could buff it up to the eyeballs.
Yep.
But I know they weren't great, and I think just because they didn't have good spread of good units, I guess.
Yeah, Scrivo, I know you said you were building a Grey Knight army now. Have you played them before? Played against them?
I've
What do you
not.
think?
That's the thing. Locally, there's not really anyone with it, and I think I've managed to avoid them at events. But they seem very kind of. My experience outwardly of them is they're either really kind of bonkers in the psychic phase, or then they get toned back down and no one really touches them. And it feels like they need to be given that kind of extra level of like layer of something to give people something to do as well, because they're kind of like Space Marines that do psychic stuff, but then that's all they seem to be focused on. There's not any other flavour bits to it, wasn't it?
I feel like they were a bit of a classic 8th edition army where they had a couple of tricks that they kind of like, well, this is how my army is built around. I'm going to buff up this unit shooting, and I'm going to make it shoot out of line of sight, and I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. Whereas 9th edition is, in my opinion, the Salt Bay CP edition, where you're just sprinkling it on. You're just sprinkling it on from a height.
Yes.
So, for context on me, I've been playing Grey Knights a lot. It's pretty much been my main faction since the start of 2020. That includes over TTS. I also took it to Belgium to play in the Belgian team championships over there with some of the most nails teams across Europe. So we had Italy came, we had Finland come, we had 3 English teams there. And we came third at that. And I've also been playing them consistently on TTS through the Scottish leagues, where I've won a few of those over the last year or so. So I have been playing a lot of Grey Knights. Sometimes I feel like people think I'm a one-trick Grapple player, but this is a faction I've been playing a lot of. So I can bring a bit of context to a few of these. And the first thing that I noticed was that Grey Knights look like they're getting some sub-factions. So, for example, you've got a Wardmaker Psychic Power here. You've got a Sword Bearer's Psychic Power here. It looks like you've got your own unique Psychic Powers stratagems in different things, which is, it's okay. It's just more stuff, right? The first one is Projection of Purity. That's for Wardmakers. Means nothing because it's not got a precedent. And that is a cast value of 6, and if you select an enemy unit within 12-inch range, and until the start of your next psychic phase, that unit is not affected by the aura abilities it models from its own army. The only way I can see this being useful is if you can give it to things like strike squads, where you're happy to just drop them down, cast power, be gone, right? I don't see this as being massively useful just because of that 12-inch range. I think that really hurts. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, it's definitely like you've got to... I think it's quite situational. You've got to be playing against an army that relies on auras, and there's going to be a specific turn that you're going to need to do this with, like a deep striking unit or something like that. So it's not that sort of thing that you can build anything around or use every game. I mean, because how many units really rely on an aura anyway?
Especially in 9th edition, man. It feels like we've got more kind of, when you go that MSU build route that they're trying to clearly encourage, it's not very much about castling around buffs like it was at the very start of 8th edition, for example.
No. I think generally our armies have, because I think, I don't know, just ones I've seen and ones I've thought about. I mean, mine and Scrivo's list that we're taking at the weekend are examples of it. I feel like we've both got one bunker, and then the rest is stuff that goes around. I've got my Catacomb Command Barge and Necron Warrior blobs, stuff supporting it, and then everything else is kind of solo. Whereas Scrivo's got some solo units, and he's got his Azrael and Ezekiel interceptor bubble.
But it's not like you're building entirely around a bubble, is it? It's like
it's one part of the puzzle, right? It's not you just do this is my one trick. It's you've got to do this thing, but you've also got to play the scenario, and that's what this is kind of like. It's things to add to that, right?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we'll move on from that one, and we'll go on to the next psychic power, which is for Sword Bearers. This is the Emphiric Lodestone, so he has a warp charge value of 7 and an 18-inch range this time. And you select a friendly Sword Bearer's vehicle within that range, and whenever it makes a range attack against that enemy unit, or you pick a unit with 18-inch range, whenever vehicles shoot at it, you get +1 to wound against it. That's decent. It only applies to vehicles, though, which makes me think they're pushing down on that Nemesis Dread Knight. There you are, Scrivo. Mate, Storm Ravens, dude.
Yes.
Nobody even thinks about Storm Ravens.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nikos?
I think Stormraven's a good one because I think it has a lot of shots, right? So you're getting loads of value from the +1.
Hurricane bolters, all that jazz.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
So just find the most shots that are. There's going to be that threshold, isn't there, between most, like if you have loads of shit shots and a couple of good shots, there's somewhere in between that is the perfect vehicle for this. And yeah, Stormraven's probably a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Viking said in the chat, Land Raiders. No, I'm quite chuffed about this one because I've got 5 Stormravens behind me that I've not seen used for a few years. So I want to paint 2 up, play them as Grey Knights. That should be awesome. Scrivo, what do you think?
Yeah, to me I like the fact that they're trying to encourage people to use specific types of units as well, because there's nothing worse than it being like this army's only good as infantry. I like the fact that they try to give you tools for each different part of the army. They don't always land, but it's nice to give the choice. And I've noticed again, it's yet another wound roll based ability, which is quite common in this edition. It seems like they really want to kind of help, because that, I suppose, is the most variable of the 2 rolls. Like, to hit and to wound can only be modified by 1 each, and most things are hitting quite accurately, but the wound roll can be quite swingy. So if you're shooting a bunch of just bolt gun style shots at big things, if you're re-rolling the wounds or adding to the wound shots, plus that +1 to the wound negates 2 levels of toughness. So it makes such a difference, doesn't it? I found that caught me out with Blood Angels recently, where they get +1 to wound. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Wounding on 2s?
It feels like they're making toughness values quite redundant, though, right? With like transhuman everywhere and +1, -1 to wound all over the place. It's like they're trying to build it out. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It feels like a rock, paper, scissors thing.
Not that relevant anymore.
Yeah. The final Grey Knight psychic power before we get into the actual meat of shit that I like and hate is the Prescient Brethren psychic power. It's called Fatal Precognition. I read that as facial recognition. That's not kind of what it is. But we'll keep going.
At least it wasn't fecal something. What?
Fecal recognition. I mean, that's what we're going to be made. That's today's article. Okay, that's fine. This is defined as a malediction. So answer the question from earlier about witchfires and all that kind of stuff. It's got a cast value of 5 and a range of 12 inches again for an enemy unit. Until the start of your next psychic phase, each time that enemy unit makes a normal move, advances, falls back, or makes a charge move, roll a d6. On a 4 to 5, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that enemy unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. I'm a little underwhelmed by this for a few reasons. Firstly, when I read it, I thought, that's going to be like, you take some movement off when you fall back. Maybe I can lock them down in combat. No, not that at all. And then even after that, it's only on a 4+, they actually take mortal wounds.
Yeah.
And they've got to still be alive in combat in your psychic phase. I mean, we're taking a round of beating, Probably.
Yeah.
If you're within 12-inch range of a Psycho anyway. Although I guess if you can get this on, I don't know, a unit of... You might as well just smite them. Like, it's the same thing, but more consistently. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. The fact... I mean, I think if it was like... Yeah. There's 2... It's really short range, so it's hard to get a unit that you necessarily want. Your opponent... Like, if there's a unit you specifically want, your opponent knows that, they can try and keep it away from you or whatever. So yeah, short range not good, and again you've got to cast it, they've got to not deny it, and then you've got to roll the 4+ again. Just too many hoops to jump through for not all that much.
Very much
D3
reward.
At best. Yeah, well, no, sorry,
100%
three at best, but D3.
Yeah, but you've still got a better chance of. I think what's the odds of rolling an 11+ on 2d6 dice? It's like 1 in 12, I think, but then it's d6. Whereas this is 1 in 6, but it's flat free. It's like, whatever. I think this is pretty poor, personally. What do you think, Scrivo?
It makes me want to see the rest of that psychic tree, because that looks like the dud of the tree to me. And there might be some context to it, but it feels like it's the dud to me.
I don't know if these are trees. I think these are like individual powers. That you get
you're right.
Yeah,
this is that sub-faction.
It makes me not want
power. So maybe they've tried to balance it out by giving them a shit power, but they've got an amazing relic or an amazing warlord trait or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So Skodoji says, or Skodji, sorry, I can't read either. I think this is just the habit of the host. You just can't do it. Fatal Recognition, to me, it looks as though it's not limited to the nearest unit, unlike Smite. Drop it onto a character sitting nearby. Maybe you could, 100%. Yeah. My main concern with it is a 12-inch range power. So the amount of stuff you're really going to be in range of is probably a little bit underwhelming for me. But if you're able to get into a position where you can do that and finish someone off, fantastic. And who knows, maybe the rest of Prescient Brethren could be really, really good and make it worthwhile taking them. It's just something that you kind of end up with, right? So it's not necessarily the end of the world. It's not like an abomination like +1 to leadership value or something like that, right? We'll go on to the stuff that I actually kind of like first, so we can get into the salt right at the end. So the next article I want to look at is the Grey Knights can see your reinforcements coming with the new Codex's predictive powers. Okay, and there's a couple of things in here. Firstly, you can buy extra bits of war gear for your characters. It doesn't say that in the article, but I have seen floating around the WhatsApps a certain thing with certain points costs. So the first one is the Omen of Incursion, and a lot of people were ranting and raving about this because it's a once per battle ability that allows you to effectively get a free Auspex scan. Yeah. So if anything drops within 12-inch range of any of your Grey Knight units, they can shoot at it. I am very underwhelmed by this because the number of times you need to use Auspex scan as Grey Knights anyway, sometimes the 2CP is more valuable to you than the unit itself, right?
Yeah.
And even then, like, I know it's not 2CP now, but in order for us to get value, you need to be standing out in the open, realistically, and you're going to not want to be in melee, right? I'd rather save the 30 points to buy something else and then just tank it, because the situations where I'm going to be standing out in the open, ready to shoot anything that comes down, are pretty low when I consider those are situations when I'm going to die to shooting anyway, right?
Yeah.
If I'm putting myself out in the open, I'm probably going to handshake that I'm dead.
Yeah. And it does say core as well, which makes me think straight away, does that mean that some of the... Because there is only like 5 or 6 specific units for Grey Knights, realistically, isn't it? Does that mean that something like Dread Knight's
I would
not
assume
be?
it would be Terminate. I would assume it's be Strike Squads and Terminators, and if we're lucky, maybe we get a third unit.
Yeah.
Maybe Purifies.
Yeah.
But that's about
Which
it.
makes that
I'm
very
pretty underwhelmed by this
right?
one.
I reckon all the infantry stuff will be core.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I'm hoping the Dread Knight, because Redemptors are, right? By that logic.
You've got one.
Yeah.
No, because why not? They like playing like, let's go bash into each other hammer, don't they?
Hey, you can take a HQ as a Dread Knight. You can take Dread Knight, elites. You can take a whole Dread Knight army, maybe.
Yeah, you can do it with a Dread Knight, because they're a Grey Knight character, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Nemesis ones are the HQs, the Nemesis Grandmaster Dread Knights, but I don't think the basic ones are. We'll have to see them. The second one I read, though,
I think I don't like this one because I think it'd be better to be. It's better to be a CP.
Yeah.
Because it's situational. Like, looking at it from a competitive point of view, if I'm going into a tournament, not every game is that's gonna be relevant. Someone might not have any deep striking. That's just not in their game plan. So you've wasted 30 points in that situation. It's better.
Yes.
It would be better just to have that option rather than being it. I've got to write it into my list.
Also, for what it's worth, given my games playing Grey Knights, I can count the number of times my opponent has deep struck anything within 12-inch range of my Grey Knights on 0 hands. It just doesn't happen. It just tends not to happen. And sometimes when they do, you want them to charge in, and then you can kill them with all your other stuff, with your short-range smites and what have you. So it's not great, especially when you have access to like really small squads of servitors that you can be using around to screen this kind of stuff anyway. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. Just buy some servitors. It's fine. The one I like, though, is the Gem of Inoctu. So it's kind of for similar reasons that I liked the 8-point Cabal power that made your psychic power undeniable for 1,000 Suns. Because what this does is, I believe it's 10 or 15 points. And once per battle, when the bearer is selected to manifest psychic powers, you can use this gift if you do so, but until the end of the phase, each time the bearer attempts to manifest a psychic power from the Dominor's discipline, add 2 to that attempt's psychic test. I think that's really good for just that turn when you need to warp shifting and warp shaping and change your tide, or you need to get something else off. I think that's fantastic and really good for what it is.
Well, even like something as simple as you're in the embers of a game, they've got a character sat with a unit that you can't quite shoot to death, but you've got a guy that can maybe zap it with some psychic, and you just need to guarantee that smite gets off. Those sort of little clutch, kind of very basic, just flinging some mortal wounds at someone, giving the +2 makes the world of difference, right? If it's the difference between them 100%. Surviving or not, and it's like turn 4-5.
Well, also, the number of times where I've spent like CP on, I'm going to give myself +1 here, and I'm going to give him a Sanctic Charge for another +1 reroll, and I'm going to cast on 3d6 because I absolutely need this power off.
Yes.
That is something I can count on like 12 hands.
Yeah.
because it's very common for Grey Knights. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than the other one, because it's going to be relevant in every game.
Yeah.
There's going to be a turn where you really want some psychic powers off, and I think wasn't there something earlier where you could get, or was that Thousand Suns? I'm getting confused now, but I'm sure there must be something in this book where one of your psychics can cast an extra spell.
That was a Thousand Suns thing, I think.
So I'm getting confused, but I imagine Grey Knights might have something similar. One of their psychics is better to cast 3, so this would be great value on him. So that one turn, you're getting 3 spells with +2.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. The final thing in this article is the Tide of Celerity. Now, this has been causing a buzz online as well. My main takeaway from this is that tides are back. Hooray! I'm a big fan of that.
The Tide of Celery.
Yeah, it's Tide of Celery.
Don't eat it, guys. Jeez,
It tastes like
millennials.
shit. So what this does is, while the tide is active, your advances, if you roll a 1 or a 2, it counts as a 3, and every time you roll a dice that's a 1 or a 2 on the charge, it counts as 3 instead. Everyone's been saying about how good this is coming out of Deep Strike and charging. I disagree, because it means that you need like a 6 on 1 of the 2 dice, and then a reroll. It's not that reliable. Although if you have an ability to give yourself +2 to your charge, now it's a 75% chance of success each time you go, and then you've got a reroll as well.
What is it? So if you just need one, you just need 1 6 on 2 dice, but then you got a reroll, so you got 4 chances of getting a 6.
Yeah,
Isn't that?
so that's CP as well.
Okay, yeah. So that's that's so a CP, and that's what is that? That's a
66% chance.
Whereas what you're saying,
bit risky.
better.
Yeah. It's not it's adding some consistency, but not enough to guarantee a charge.
Whereas if you have a +2 to your charge range from your chaplain or what have you, that'd give you a 93.25 or 75% chance of success. I think. So, I think it's 2.5.
So you'd want to do both together then, right? To just nail it.
Yes, you would. Yeah, because you've got 4 chances of trying to roll a 4+. Is how it works. And still, that's not.
But maybe it's good, not just for Deep Strike, for other stuff, like if there's a turn,
I think that's the main thing.
Yourself across the board. Turn 2.
Yep.
Get those long charges in.
I think a good example is Interceptors. So they're the 12-inch charge flying Grey Knights. They move 12 inches, and then you've got at least a 6-inch charge guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing, worse than kind of turn 1 to get onto objectives for turn 2 scoring, only rolling a 1 on an advance to get onto them, and not just getting there. So that could be quite helpful. Depends on the outside of that unit. You don't necessarily have the mobility, right?
Yeah, just to go to the chat a second. Yes, Meatballs has demonstrated their maths boffin qualifications.
Yes,
so charging out of Deep Strike improves it to 39% chance or 62% chance of a reroll. Better for non-Deep Strike charges, sure, but still great for Deep Strike. Yes, it is good for Deep Strike. I just wouldn't be betting the game most of the time on a 62% chance, although it depends upon the matchup, right? If I can swing a bad matchup to a win 62% of the time, that's a fantastic result, right? My question is whether or not you do that, but it's definitely a good tool to have in your army, and it's definitely not a bad tide at all, unlike the previous melee tide, which is like reroll 1s to hit with nemesis weapons or something shit. Okay, so we'll do the last section of the news, and then we'll get onto the Builder Boss workshop, which we've all been prepping for this week. So there's a couple of changes in here. I'm just going to full monologue because I feel it. There's a few stratagems hitting here. I'm not particularly fussed about them. Some people have been particularly excited about Hammerhand. It's now reroll to wound in combat rather than +1 to wound in combat. Everyone's saying that's ridiculous. I don't think that's a massive change up on the previous section of Hammerhand. I don't think it matters that much. There's been some things released for Nemesis Dread Knights, for Greatsword specifically. Yeah, Greatsword looks good, but you need to see the points cost, I think, before I commit to buying that. I still think the shooting one has some play, especially when you're considering the psychic power earlier to get +1 to wound with vehicles. Now, there are a couple of massive changes here. I'm going to start with the biggest one because Astrolabe is currently the way you play Grey Knights. It is the pivot of the army. If you want to play Grey Knights, you play around Astrolabe because it gives you something that no other army has. In terms of you have access to the best signals line of sight shooting of the game, and you have the ability to clear out the buildings and jump into them with the Edict, Gate, and Astrolabe combos, whilst also using your Cybot ammunition. This has now been removed. So it is changed to a psychic power for purgation squad. So now, way it now works is each of your Grey Knight squads gets a smite. It gets a specific power. So, for example, in purgation squads, they get Astral Aim, and then they get to pick a power from their brotherhood. So, whatever brotherhood they're in, it looks like they pick that power up. So, that power we're talking about for the sub-faction, you get that third power as well. So, you're not picking a psychic power for each individual unit as you go along. Now, what Astral Aim now does, it allows you to reroll one hit roll. That's great on my 24-shot purgation squad. Fantastic, thank you. And it allows you to ignore cover for the benefit of that attack. That's okay, except for the fact that I'm deep striking anyway, and I'm -1 to hit because it's a heavy weapon. So it doesn't really matter as much, right?
Reroll one hit.
One hit.
One hit roll.
Wow, terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty shit. So losing that is utterly enormous for Grey Knights because it completely changes the way that you play the army. Because what you previously do is you'd build around Terminator brick and a Paladin brick, you walk it up the board, you make it really durable, and you shoot people up away. And then if you can like knock that Paladin brick down, great, you've done a great job. If you can't, then you're in trouble. Now you can't do that, you've got to find a completely different way of playing the army. And that sucks, to be honest, especially after I've been waiting for 2 years to play this army and how yes. Just in lockdown for now, and then oh look, they've just removed it. Well, thank you guys, that was really cool of you, but I mean, to be fair, it's not their fault really. It's fine, it's whatever. It's just kind of annoying.
I feel you because they did that with the Orks, like I was saying last week.
Yeah.
All the stuff I'm sitting on, it's just irrelevant now.
Yeah, your burner voice, They've got you, they've got me. They're going to get Scrivo next week. That's what's going to happen. So yeah, it sucks.
They can't get me.
Hopefully. There's going to be a different way to play Grey Knights based on this book, but I don't trust that they specifically removed it so they could put power elsewhere to balance it out, because I don't think they had the time to do that, especially when they're dropping 2 books in 1 week. But we'll find something, and hopefully it's just as enjoyable.
Yeah.
So that should be good. Scotchy, the change to Astral Aim hurts me, but deep down I feel like it gives more breathing room for balance and Grey Knight shooting overall, so that's something. Maybe it's just one of those where I feel like the thing that was making Astral Aim good is the combos that you were giving out of the Psychic Awakening. For example, Astral Aim was a thing since 2017, but you never saw it until 2020. Although I was planning on using it from like November 2019 to October 2019, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. The other thing that they changed is the Aegis. Now, if you look at the Aegis, what it means is each time a model in this unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, on a 5+, you ignore it. So you got a 5+ DPI against mortal wounds, and you get +1 to deny the witch tests taken for that unit, right? And on the face of it, it looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's all right. It's 5+ mortal wound deny. The problem is, compared to what it used to be, it's dog shit. So what it used to do is it used to give you +1 to cast for everyone. So it's
gone from aggressive to defensive.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, but it's just kind of annoying. And if you're not building around lots of different units having psychic powers, because you can't select like, here's Sanctuary on my strike squad, here's Astral Aim on my Purgs, you know what I mean? It's not as big of a deal. I don't know. I kind of went on a bit of a monologue there, so I'm going to come to you guys on your overall thoughts. Nick, what are your overall thoughts on those changes?
Well, I don't really know, because I didn't, like I said, I've played them a few times. I didn't play them, so I didn't know the army all that well. And like Scrivo said a few times, I think ultimately it really will depend on the full context of the book. Maybe it was felt that they needed to tone that down because other things got a buff. Maybe there's some other ways to boost psychic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but 5+ mortal wound save, you never know, that might come good in the meta in the long run if mortal wounds become the fashion. Maybe it could be good in a team format, Tom.
Yeah,
because like if there's an army and they bring this is specifically a mortal wound spam army, like triple Satan or something like that. Maybe Grey Knights play well into that as a defensive army.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But like one of the things that I really liked about Grey Knights was I was looking at it and I was saying, well, everyone just puts down Tau and Admech down as first defenders so they can pick a really light board. What if I could put down a unit of second defender that could pick a really heavy board, like Grey Knights? And the reason why I thought Grey Knights were really good on heavy boards,
because
it's now gone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's fixed one problem in a way. Grey Knights are still good on those heavy boards, but like part. It's just a change for reasoning for it, right? I think you're absolutely right on that one. But it's still going to be good in team play, I think. Although we have to see the rest of the book, but my initial hunch is it'd be good in team play just because of their archetype. Scrivo, what do you think?
It gives me already the kind of the feeling that when we've looked at all the 9th edition books so far, if there's been any really kind of primary way that the book used to play, they then tone that down or even negate it entirely and go, here's 4 other ways to play. They're not all as strong, but they're a way of playing it. So like even to some extent, Death Guard's got that, where there's a couple of different ways to play them. That's probably the most limiting, but that's what this makes me feel like they're trying to do, at least. That it's not just, here's Grey Knights, and they're going to play, and they're going to have all these same abilities, the same units. It's not going to be this whole kind of like cookie-cutter approach. That's my knee-jerk reaction to it at the moment, but at the same time, without seeing it, I don't know. But that's how it feels to me at the moment, that if that was something that you were always relying on, that's what they're going to take away first, right?
Yeah. Wardoy in the chat, the fact that units are stuck with specific powers feels painful. If they cast every power once, it's still applicable to them. Agreed. Although, that power that was a 4+ to take D3 or 3 mortal wounds, if you can spam that could be alright. It might not be too bad. Camelot 96, as a Custodes player, the Aegis in particular annoys me as it's our anti-mortal wound ability, but better. I mean, get some Psychers, mate, and you'll be fine, sort it out.
I'm sure they'll get an improvement as well when their book comes out.
Yeah. And Scotchy, the change to Astral Aim hurts me, but deep down I feel like it's with more breathing room for balancing grenade shooting overall. So that's something where we'll have to see how the rest of the Codex works. So, is it too early to see if it's Sin or Ben Guy? We don't have those here. Dream, we don't tend to have Sin or Ben Guy. They're all Sin Guy. Okay, is what we've seen from the last.
So 70% win rate, right? That's what we're looking for.
Ben Guy had his time, which is the first 6 months of 9th edition, and now it's Sin Guy's time to shine. Okay.
Yeah.
Although I feel like we might be back to Ben Guy again. We'll have to see. Hopefully not. All right. I think after about 70 minutes of streaming, that covers the news. I'm sorry about that, guys. That was entirely my fault.
Yeah, so good.
We'll get to the main fixture of today, okay? And I've been looking forward to this one because I've had a lot of fun customizing my beast boss on Scrigosaur. Scrivo, you've been doing the Death Killer Wartrike.
Warboss on a bike. I've gone Forge Rod. I've gone for the cheese.
He's on hipster.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you have. And Nikos, which one have you been doing, mate?
I've gone for the Warboss in Mega Armor as my chosen champion for this boss fight.
Nice.
Oh my word! All right, I feel like I'm going to go first on this one, and then after I've done that one, we'll get the chat to vote for you guys. So you can be voting throughout this next section if we're going to go for the Death Killer Wartrike first for Scrivo, or if we're going to go for Nikos's mega armored boss next. Okay, so I'll quickly blast through mine. So I've gone for the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. If nothing but because the Beast Boss's squig looks like it's got a square head, and I love it. Okay, big fan, big fan.
It's very square shark-like, isn't it?
Big square shark-like, yeah. Proper ham. That's the real hammerhead.
It's baby shark. Baby shark.
Oh, right. We're kicking Scrivo from the call, but we can't because he's got all the tech. Pointing. So, base stats by Squigosaur. Okay, he's got 10 wounds. Okay. Wounds 2+, weapon skill 2+, 5+ ballistic skill, strength 6, toughness 7. Yeah, this guy riding a big hopper squig is tougher than a plane if you're Drakari. Okay, it's not bad at all. Got 9 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, and a 4+ save. It's also got the Dead Tough, special rule, which gives a 5+ invulnerable save. It's also got Thick Hide, which gives it -1 damage taken to a minimum of 1. Sisters players, you can be quiet. And then it's finally got Beast Boss, which is a 6-inch aura, which gives +1 to hit the Beast Snagger core and characters within 6 inches in melee. Okay. Now this does apply to him, but obviously he already hits on 2, so he's just going through your -1 to hit. All right, not too bad at all. Now he's customized with a slugger, so that's just a normal pistol, 12 inches, strength 4, AP dash, damage 1, and then he's also got a Beast Chopper. Okay. Which is strength user, so strength 6, AP -2, damage 2, and make 1 additional attack with his weapon every time you fight. And then finally, you've got the big jaws of the Hammerhead Squigo, which are the Squigosaur's jaws, strength 7, AP -3, damage 3, and you make 3 additional attacks and no more than 3 with this weapon each time you fight. And then unmodified 6s to wound cause flat 3 mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends. Now, it is AP -3. But when you're hitting things from vulnerable saves, that's not too bad, is it? Really?
Yeah. Is that just the data slate rules you've just read out?
Yeah, that's just the data slate rules. Okay.
Jesus.
And now I'm getting customizing.
That was as long as your Grey Knight monologue.
I mean, it was. I said all I need to say on Twitter, to be honest. I'm still molding. That's fine. Now, Warlord traits. This is where you can customize a little bit. There's a few different options you can take here. I was considering taking half-chewed because if we're going upon the premise that we're just going to be fighting all of our war bosses together, okay? What half-chewed does, it gives me a 4+ DPR when in engagement range of a character or monster. But I'm not going to go for that because I want to make this more useful, okay? Now, I could have gone for Proper Killy, which is the Goth Warlord trait. Now, I still hate Goths, and I still think Goths are shit, okay? But in this context, I think Goths could be useful, all right? Just because that gives you 1 extra attack, so 6 attacks, and then an extra point of AP. So that'll make your Squigosaur's Jaws AP -4, and it'd make your Beast Chopper AP -3, okay? So that's not too bad at all. And then when you get the additional attack with the Beast Chopper, that'll give you 7 attacks, okay? But I have gone for, instead, Arda's Nails. So rather than stacking with, yes, I know, yeah. So rather than stacking with all the kind of damage that you're doing, I'm going to stack with my durability. So I've got toughness 7, that's in. I've got a 5+ invulnerable save, that's in. I've got -1 damage, that's in. And what Arda's Nails does is it gives me -1 to wound.
Oh.
Okay. And I've got 9 wounds. All right. So I'm running around with this unkillable squig boy that none of you are going to touch. Okay. You can't catch me, boys. Not even Scrivo's stupid bike. Okay. Now, I've also gone for Goths, which is why I had a look at the Warlord trait. And the reason why I've gone for Goths is so I can proc additional hits with the Squigosaur's Jaws. Okay. So if I take that, I get the trait No Mucking About. So 6s to hit, cause 1 additional hit. Or I could use 2 CP to improve that to 5s. So I could charge in, do all my attacks from the Beast Chopper, which is why I was considering going for Proper Killy with the extra attacks. So that's 6 attacks with the Beast Chopper. And then I get 3 attacks with the Squigosaur's Jaws. And any 6 I roll become additional hits. It's pretty beefy. I also get +1 strength if I charged or performed a heroic intervention. So that makes strength 7. Okay, then +2 for weapons, so that'd make the Beast Chopper strength 9, and the Squigosaur's Jaws strength 8. It's pretty good, not too bad. Now, I've decided to capitalize on both the damage and the durability with my relic. Okay, so I've gone for the Beast Hide Mantle.
Yes,
so that gives me +1 attack. So yeah, I just keep taking all the bits from you guys. I've got +1 attack, so even more attacks with my Beast Chopper. And I've got a 5+ DPR to go alongside the other 4 rules I have, making me durable. Wow. I'm getting up to ACMEC levels of buffs, mate. Lots of buffs. Look at all. 5 buffs.
How is that 4? Is that 5 resilient buffs, you say?
So I've got 5+ invulnerable save base. I included the toughness 7 in that, so it's technically 4. -1 damage, -1 to wound, 5+ DPR.
Wow. And a lot of wounds.
And 9 wounds.
Armor save 3 up?
4 up. Unfortunately.
Okay, yeah. If you had a good armor save, I think that's like the toughest thing.
I'll tell you what, though, I can get some more durability, Nikos. There is a stratagem in the Orc book for beast snaggers.
Oh,
yeah.
It's called
new models. You mean? Keyword new models.
Sorry, new models. My mistake. The arse end of your horse, there, Nikos. Yeah. It is called Tough Squig Hide, and it's 2 CP, and it's an actual transhuman physiology, not the bollocks that snakebites have. For beast snagger, new models, infantry, cavalry, and beasts, and monsters.
Is there no toughness 8 claws in there?
There's no claws in there.
Oh, no toughness 8 claws in there.
No claws. The only claws you're seeing, mate, are on the squig. Okay. So that comes in at 145 points. If I wanted to, I could put a shitty gun on it, but my boy doesn't need any guns. He's going to run up and punch you in the head, mate. And you're going to do nothing about it. All right. That's mine. All right, Scrivo, Nikos, the chat don't appear to have a preference. So, raise your hand if you want to go first, otherwise I'm going to pick one of you. Oh, yes, we've got a volunteer. Go on, Nick. What have you got for us, mate?
So I have a Warboss in Mega Armor.
Very good.
So he doesn't have nearly as many base rules as the new models keyword. He doesn't have the new models keyword.
He doesn't.
Although he is a new model, though. So maybe I'm wrong. Anyway. So he has movement 5, which is not as fast, but weapon skill 2, so choppy. Blister skill 5, but you don't care about that. Strength 6, toughness 6, wounds 7, 5 attacks.
That's not too bad on the wounds characteristic for a normal infantry dude, mate.
Infantry, yeah. 2 up save though, so that's pretty good. So
Very good. Very good.
Armor. He's got a huge chopper, which is +3 strength, so strength 9, so as strong as your guy got.
Yeah.
AP3 and damage 2, but no additional rules. So damage 2 isn't great because there's a lot of -1 damage out there. I prefer damage 3, but AP3 is pretty good. He's got a lot.
I tell you what, mate, that model is really cool. Actually, I really like that.
It is a very cool model.
That's good. Yeah.
He has Here We Go and War special rules. He has Dead Tough as well, so he's got a base 5+ invuln. He has a grok runner on his big shooter, but I don't really care about that. It's like you get +1 to hit rolls, so you get 5 or 3 shots at strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. I don't care. Then you have the classic Warboss aura, so core and characters within 6 +1 to hit. But that's where his rules end. He doesn't get -1 damage and all that. Flat 3 mortal wounds on. None of that stuff. So I've gone for Death Skulls.
Okay.
So Death Skulls, I really like it for Orks. So you get to reroll 1 hit or 1 wound roll when you're attacking. So I think that's
pretty
shooting
good
and combat.
Yeah.
You also get a new Grey Knight special rule. You get a 5+ DPR against mortal wounds. So you get a Grey Knight, a G.
I think we're referring to that one, Nikos, as the not Custodes rule.
The not Custodes rule.
Yes.
Get that included.
Yes.
But then you also get infantry, get OBSEC, so he becomes objective secure.
Oh, that's cool.
So not only
you don't want to walk near him, do you?
Yeah. Not only is he a beat stick and he's quite resilient, he's taking that objective from you. So I have gone for.
Well, also, mate, what size is his base? Just before we get into the.
I think he's probably 50 or 60 mil
So
base.
if you stick him on the middle of an objective, you're not getting on that thing, mate. He's going to heroic intervene on you and beat your head.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I've also gone down the resilient route, same as Tom. I went for Ardor's Nails as well.
Good choice.
For that sweet cultured pick for the -1 to wound. And now for my relic, there was 2 options I went for. I either thought about doing Da Crushing Armor, which gives you a 4+ invuln, so better invuln, and you get a +1 to your armor saving throws. So it's effectively a storm shield for him, and you get like your charged mortal wound bonus, which is okay. But I think I actually went for the Super Cyborg Body. Infantry only, 4+ invuln. Each time you allocate attack to this model, half the damage characteristic, so you get a better, disgustingly.
Mate, there are so many good relics in here. I mean, obviously we know about the Killer Claw, but you've got a bunch of really good durable relics here. Like Super Cyborg Body's really good. I'm looking at the Crushing Armor, 1 up save on your guy, mate. Basically ignoring -1, that's really, really good. And you get the 4+ honorable save as well.
Yeah,
hey, there's a lot of good defensive relics in here. Yeah.
Yes, and the Death Skull stratagem is Wreckers, which gives you +1 to wound for 2 CP.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You get Veterans of the Long War style stratagem for your Orks.
Mate, that's going to mean you're wounding knights on 2s.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Nice.
I like
Jamie's
that,
damage isn't very high for killing knights, but...
yes, but you can. You can do it.
You can.
That's the main thing.
Just, when he's sitting around the table with all the other war bosses, he's like, I can wound knights on 2s.
Yep. Fair play. I like it, mate. You got any stratagems or anything like that you might be using on this guy, or is I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
Another option I thought of for this guy is obviously it needs an FAQ, but you wouldn't be Death Skulls, which is really good for this guy. So you'd lose a lot, but you can make him a truck boy. So you could make him a custom.
Nice.
I don't know what it's called. A custom culture.
Specialist
make him a
mobs.
truck. Specialist mob.
Yep.
You could just bang him in a truck on his own and just barrel him forward because the truck could move. He could get out and then still charge. I think.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I really like that.
That's
awesome.
a different option. But then you're not getting the OBSEC and the reroll hit and wound and a Grey Knight not Custodes rule.
Do you know what I think I'd do, mate? I think I'd run 2. I'd run 1 as Gork and 1 as Mork. So the sneaky one sits at the back, okay, and does this thing. And then the Gork one goes forward and just charges with truck boys. Yeah. I think that's awesome. I like it. I really like that one, mate. Good work. Scrivo, thank you very much for that, Nikos. Scrivo,
mine's not anywhere as exciting because there is a lot less options if you're not playing with the new toys.
Because you went the edgy choice.
Mate, it's just Forge World, so
yeah. Well, he's got less options, but it's still a really cool pick. I think as if I'm building a list and I've got 2 detachments, I've been building them with the Squigosaur in one list, in one of the detachments, but I also like having the bike, because I have a real problem with liking Orc war bikes a bit too much. So having a Warboss with them is kind of cool. So what I've done is I've made him Snakebite. Given him straight off the bat, I've given him the Warlord trait Surly as a Squigoth, which is basically like, he can't fight on death, but on a 4-up, he gets back up with D3 wounds remaining. Within as close as possible for where he was destroyed, but not within engagement range. So my kind of idea is how I used to play him in 8th edition as well. It's like almost rocket him and stuff into something. If he dies on a 4-up, he comes back anyway. But also give him the Killer Claw so that he's just 3 damaging whatever he's hit. So the other option, if I wasn't giving him
you use him as like a grenade unit.
Yeah, just throw him in, and then
explode.
Distraction card effects.
And then if you don't give him the Squigoth trait, the other one was let me see what it's called. It's one of there is Speed Freak specific traits was the other option I was going with. I think it's called Road something. God, dreadful at this. Where are they hiding?
Very fun.
These books are not as easy to find things, are they anymore? They never have been, have they? Where is it? Road Killer. So it's one of my favourite things to do with Orc trucks there was the old stratagem ramming speed where you 3d6 charge and then you do mortal wounds on a 2-up. Having that but on the Warboss, it's just like, why not? Let's do that. Just throw him at someone, 3 mortal wounds on impact on a 2-up. It's kind of fun, right? And that normally can just, if it's a unit of 3 tanky guys with invuln shields and they're all 3 wound Terminators, Blade Guard, whatever, you know, the kind of that archetype, that's one of them gone straight off the bat. So then when you're swinging, there's one less of them. So I like that as an approach, but I do feel like
I quite wish there was more of those kind of rules in 40k. Like, you know, like AOS, they try to do different rules for cavalry.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Whereas I really think the cavalry rules should be when they charge, they do some mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So I quite like those kind of those rules. I wish there was a few more for dealing with those units you just talked about, like the really resilient elite stuff that's got really high toughness, armor save, and invuln and stuff.
Because generally it tends to be for 40k, it's on a 2-up you do D3.
Yeah,
I would like it if it was. There is one example of a mechanic that's a little bit more exciting. Is the Ocelot Bone Reapers cavalry? They roll a D6 for every inch the charge is. So it's showing the perpetual motion, and I like that as a mechanic. That feels very orcish as well, right? Like going for a long bomb just because you know you're going to hit them as hard as possible. But
yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Scrivo. Thanks so much, guys. It was really good. I think my favourite out of those ones, out of all 3 of ours, I think I'm going to say Nikos is my favourite. Scrivo, who is your favourite?
Mine's the Squigosaur, but it's because I've got a massive nerd boner for a giant big squig that you just can't kill. It's like, I want that model just so I can go, right, come deal with me. And people are like, oh, no.
I did get in very early on my WhatsApp chat, I think. Nikos, did you have a favourite? Apart from me, Ryan, of course. But...
well, I'll go for Scrivo's then, because it's edgy.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much for that, guys. And thank you very much for hanging out. I've had a lot of fun, even if most of it was just ranting about how we're going to rant about how Grey Knights are shit. And then I spent about 30 seconds on it. That was fine. That was brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. I think next week we do have a special guest on. I've got a topic I want to cover there, so we'll let you know about that when we've just fully confirmed it. Guys, is there anyone you want to particularly shout out to? Thank you very much, obviously, for coming. Nikos, have you got anyone you want to shout out to?
Obviously give a shout out to Gozzy. I'll give a shout out to everyone I'll see at the weekend at the event.
Yeah,
I'll see you.
That should be good.
It's my first round opponent, Terry.
Yeah.
Jado-san has already come up with Astral Shame. I'm taking that one. Thank you very much. Stolen immediately. Scrivo, thank you very much for coming on.
That's right. That's so cool.
I do appreciate you coming on and sorting out all the tech for us and chatting along with us about 40k and all the bollocks that it entails.
It's great fun, isn't it?
Have you got anyone you want to shout out to?
I would like to shout out all the YouTube thugs, because obviously they're all sat there.
Nice.
Whenever there's one of these lovely videos, they come in with some absolute sass, and it's fast. Like every morning I'm there checking YouTube going, what are these idiots going to be saying now? And then I'm like, oh, they're not idiots, they've said something really insightful, I better make some notes. So shout out to them guys, they're fucking hilarious every day.
If you're watching on YouTube, hello from a different timeline, because you're watching this not live.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow. So
hello from a different time.
Perfect.
Time travelers.
I want to give a shout out to Scrivo because Scrivo has been back on that streaming game recently, and you can all follow him at. Let me just make sure I spell it right. Oh, he's not in chat because he's on my honest Wargamer account. At Scrivo SCR1VO. If you want to go follow him, he's been doing artwork live on stream, 40k and AOS artwork. Give him a follow, give him a sub. He's been putting graft in, been doing really, really well.
Thanks, man.
Obviously, thanks to the chat. Shout out to the chat and to all of the absolute legends and gangsters that sub on Twitch and on Patreon and even sub on YouTube. Even though we get no money from you, we appreciate that too. Thank you very much, guys. It was really good to see you all, and we'll see you next week.